I welcome you all to this special session. My name is Rahul Muralidharan. I work with the Energy Consortium at IIT Madras. It's an honor and privilege for me to introduce the speakers for this special session, Mr. Neeraj Sethi and Dr. Chandu Vishweshraya. Mr. Neeraj will focus on the trilemma of energy transition, and Dr. Chandu will talk about India 2047, which is advancing India's net zero targets. Just to mention that we will have live polling during Dr. Chandu's session. I hope you scan the QR code which is available outside the auditorium, or else we'll also be displaying the QR code during his presentation. Or you can go to menti.com to enter code 46504407. I kindly request the speakers to stick to their time limits. With that, I would like to introduce Mr. Neeraj. Neeraj Sethi, Country Director for Baker Hughes in India, is an international business leader with extensive experience in the upstream oil and gas industry. He has a track record of growing and running divisions and companies at a regional level, managing complex technology portfolios, and in his prior roles also run two publicly listed companies in India as the CEO of Ceylon Exploration and the CEO of Asian Energy. He has extensive general management, technology and business development experience of 25 years in the industry across multiple countries and divisions, and has helped establish Baker Hughes as a major service provider in the Indian subcontinent over the past 15 years. A graduate of IIT Bombay, technology has been at the core of his career pursuits. Neeraj has authored 5 SPE papers and holds 4 international patents. With that, I open the floor to Mr. Neeraj. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Muralidharan. Respected delegates, organizers, alumni of IIT Chennai, IIT Madras. I know you like to call yourself IIT Madras. The Energy Consortium members. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the organizers for pulling this off despite the disruptions we've had over the past few days. I unfortunately could not travel to Madras for that reason, but I am honored and to be here, and I hope that, and it's a pleasure for me to be, invited here again. We are the founding members of the Energy Consortium at IIT Madras, and I'm looking forward to coming to IIT Madras next time I'm in Chennai. So I want to the idea is to set the tone for the subsequent presentation with a few ideas and perspective from an international energy technology company, and how we view the energy transition from a business perspective, and of course technology is at the core of what we do, but we need to put this technology in the context of balancing multiple objectives: shareholder value, sustainability, ESG, and of course a sustainable future. And I'd like to kickstart this with a short graph here, a small graph, which I think energy is at the core of what we are discussing today. And if you see this graph, it's got a very clear correlation. You may have seen this many times, of the correlation between our per capita income, our standard of living, with per capita energy consumption. In fact, electricity consumption. There's a clear pathway for us, an aspirational pathway for us to move in towards at the top right from where we are currently. This is India, and you see here is China in that big yellow upper middle income. And so this is a reality that nobody is going to compromise on. Even the countries that are in that upper income, high income group on the right, with all the aspirations towards sustainability, I do not think that anyone wants to compromise on their lifestyle. So we'll have to find a way to sustainability long term keeping in view of this ground reality of this large population aspiring to increase our energy consumption and being where most of the other countries are. Having said that, this comes at a very real and visible and a tangible cost, a real economic threat, not just a social, geopolitical, geographical, or a climate threat, but it comes at a very real economic threat. And if you see, there is an estimate that the change in GDP, especially for the countries that are trying to aspire to have this higher per capita income, can be as high as minus 11%. And this is a photograph of the Chennai airport 2 days ago. The reality is right in front of our eyes. I mean, the cost to the airlines, to the airports, to people who have booked their flights, cancellations, and the overall disruption to the industry and the society as a whole. I mean, this would run into millions of dollars in not just lost opportunity, but in the cost of cleanup, in the cost of remedial action, and the loss of productivity. So I think we have to balance this dilemma between a sustainable future versus the inevitable road to industrializations, which is almost a necessity to achieve a higher per capita aspired standard of living. And so this, along with the recent war, the strife, and the geopolitical tension in the Caspian region, and of course in the Middle East region, has also amplified the discussion around energy to be sustainable, reliable, and affordable, rather than just being sustainable. And so I think this is a changing and an evolving paradigm, which has many aspects that we need to consider when we are talking about new ideas. Yes, technology is going to play a very important role in what we're going to do, but to the extent that we can implement these technologies, the direction, when we will implement these technologies, when will they be available, the credibility of our commitments versus our policies, regulation, quantification. Of course, public opinion shall drive this transition, but will we have the sufficient political will grounded in reality to make this transition available? And will we have the global consensus? As you can see, the COP28 consensus today may be a little bit different from what it was 2 years ago. It's a more practical, maybe more pragmatic approach towards the energy transition. The fact that it is being held in one of the largest oil and gas producing countries in the world is a big change in where we were a couple of years ago. Now, we all know that there is a path to a low carbon future. I will not say a net zero future because it's hard to achieve that within the next couple of decades even. But there are multiple avenues towards a net low carbon future. It could be action based on current policies with incremental changes, which will lead to a 2-degree change in temperature. The aspired change of 1.5 degrees is now becoming increasingly difficult. I would never say impossible. But regardless of where we land in the next 30 to 80 years, it is very clear that renewables will play a more important role. Fossil fuels scenario shall decrease long term. Just the timing of when this will happen is still debatable. And so, whereas these are different scenarios from the BP outlook on the consumption by source, these are not just projections that are out there for the general society, but also these are projections that we all take seriously and we all strategize around when we are looking at our business. Now, Baker Hughes is an energy technology company. We not only help our customers to produce oil and gas, we also help them to transport energy. We help them to refine energy. We help them to generate power. We help our customers to utilize hydrogen. We help our customers do carbon capture. And we also have to align ourselves with the geopolitical and the socio-economic realities of the world. Now, without going into too much detail, we believe that whereas renewables will rise over the long term, there shall be a transition from coal to natural gas, maybe even oil, hydrogen, and then we will see these three renewable energy, sustainable technologies really scale up to the level that we have. We know that there are roadblocks to all of these technologies, decarbonization, as well as increase of renewables in terms of infrastructure, cost, battery, and of course, the concomitant challenges that come with mining of lithium and the scarcity of other resources that could be induced by renewables. But we feel that natural gas, which has a footprint of about half of an equivalent amount of energy through coal, shall play a much more important role because A, it is very readily available. The distribution channels need to be improved. And it could be a very practical and a less disruptive fuel to achieve that renewables transition. Now, coming to technology, I think we all have to recognize and we all are aware that technology is the pathway to net zero. Of course, there is behavior. It's an important part of that whole equation. But the ability to channelize our aspirations into reality shall depend on technology, which will make batteries more affordable, made of more abundantly available resources, biofuels, maybe using aviation fuel out of biomass, hydrogen-based steel, long way off, but an aspiration. Decarbonization of industry, cement and steel is going to be very important. Modular nuclear reactors, synthetic liquid fuels. You know that we are already blending 20% of ethanol in India today, 18 to 20% today. Carbon capture from cement, and of course, electrolytic hydrogen for ammonia. These are all under development, and these are key technologies at the right price that could have a huge impact on what we are trying to achieve. Now, I just want to highlight that. Am I still audible and visible?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just want to highlight that, I think the journey to net zero of a country, of a company, of an individual or a community is not going to take the same path. A journey to net zero or a low carbon future for the United States could look very different from the same journey for a country like India. A journey for a refining company, downstream company may look very different than upstream company. A journey to net zero for a company like a cement company could look very different from a steel company, and that too could be very different depending on where those companies are operating, right? So I think we have to recognize that each of these journeys is going to take a view that is very unique, aligned with the overall goals of the society, their customers, and the geopolitical reality, and then take that step towards a pragmatic and an implementable approach that can be scaled up and is commercially viable. So I think the three key things for us as Baker Hughes is, I think technology is going to play a very key role. I mean, we are a technology company. We also feel that, our internal policies will have to be very reasonable and rational so that we don't break the bank and go bankrupt ourselves doing it. And we will have to deploy capital so that it generates shareholder value. So I think there are three things that we have identified where we can play a very active role for our business and our customers. Number one, we think we are already ready with hydrogen. We've been in the hydrogen technology business since 1962. Geothermal is something that a lot of people don't talk about, and I think that is something that is an almost unlimited resource as long as we can get deep enough and we can extract it in an efficient way. And of course, carbon capture, we've been there since early 2000. Our unique position in these two fields is that we are a subsurface company. We have all the technologies to drill wells, access the reservoir, and go really deep into the formation. and access, well, initially it was oil and gas, but now I think we can access the heat down there. We also have a very good understanding of the subsurface so that we can understand the geological challenges of CCUS so that we can integrate our upstream activity with our downstream, the downstream activity with our upstream expertise of actually sequestering and monitoring CCUS in a very safe way. And we started doing that in a couple of countries. So I think what we call climate technology solutions is something that we want to help our customers decarbonize their existing oil and gas operations. We are using these technologies also to go into the industrial market and creating cross-industry partnerships to implement these technologies for other industries, including steel, cement, paper mills. And some of the examples we are talking about here are betting on certain technology, and I'll talk a little bit about that for the future, because we know that we can only go so far with the incremental changes that we're looking at, but to get to the next level of decarbonization in an affordable way that makes money, we will have to invest in something that maybe is not ready today, but could be ready in about 10 years' time. The second aspect of this is that we'll have to play in different parts of the value chain, and this is not just us. I think everybody will have to look at which part of the value chain that they work on. So we feel that hydrogen along with carbon capture, which is going to take off, is something that we want to play in. Now we won't do the entire scope, but we are going to position ourselves with our industrial equipment and technology division for compressing that hydrogen, expanding that hydrogen, pumps. Turbines, we've already developed a turbine that can actually transition from methane to hydrogen as and if we see more hydrogen coming into the pipeline, especially in Europe. Combining that with carbon dioxide, making sure that the hydrogen infrastructure is properly monitored so that its integrity issues, because hydrogen is a very corrosive gas, is adequately maintained. And of course, the assets that are used to utilize and transport hydrogen will have to be very well maintained. And the kind of transportation that will be required for hydrogen will have to be non-corrosive, maybe even non-metallics, where we are very active. So these are things that we have today that can be used in the future. On the CCUS value chain, of course, we are very strong in this because we have the subsurface knowledge, we have the ability to compress that carbon dioxide, we have the ability to use geophysical models and build those to make sure that geomechanically we do not compromise the subsurface when you're injecting hydrocarbon. And we are working on a number of projects doing this. And of course, we have the drilling and completion capability. So again, the idea is not to talk just about what we are doing, but also to illustrate how we look at it and how different people will have to say, okay, well, this is the overall stream of where we want to work. And this is what we're going to do in order to make ourselves participate in this particular space and grow our business. Thirdly, not everything has to be, built from scratch. Not everything has to be, going back to the drawing board. Of course, certain things will have to be developed. But there are things that you can do today which are very practical, and I think this is a very innovative idea where, one of the challenges of carbon dioxide is to actually produce a clear and a high quality stream of carbon dioxide, removing everything else out of it, purifying the CO2. So, well, we've just invested in this company where we feel that, the ability to have a stream of CO2 at the exhaust, while at the same time capturing the waste heat, is a brilliant way of an incremental solution which can be plugged into your existing power plant, refinery, or any plant that is producing power, and take that and bring that cost of CO2 down so that we can inject that CO2 and produce that CCUS. At the same time, saving energy. So there are technologies that are maybe at tier L4 or 5, but there are technologies which are ready today, or they can be incrementally changed. I know, for another example, we all talk about carbon dioxide and hydrogen. IIT Bombay is developing a technology where they want to produce carbon monoxide, right, from reforming. So people have to look at adjacencies. And there's a huge and a diverse stream of thought around the adjacencies of molecular conversion that people are now thinking about, and then implementing that into a commercial model that actually works. I think it's a very, very exciting field to be in, and a lot of people coming up with new ideas. Just to illustrate, we've actually invested in more than 12 different companies, and some of these are doing things that, well, they look almost childishly simple, splitting methane into hydrogen and carbon. It's a brilliant idea. That's the best way of decarbonization because there's enough methane available. Solvent-based post-combustion carbon dioxide removal, CO2 capture for low purity streams, energy storage, and a lot of these things we are investing in. Now, not all of those 12 technologies shall maybe see the light of day in terms of a commerciality and a long-term scalability. But I think even if you make 3 or 4 bets that work and they can be scaled up, I believe that we will get to the future that we are desiring. And we are not the only ones. I think there are many companies who have a similar strategy, but it will be unique to their long-term strategy. Lastly, what I would say is that none of this can be done in isolation, and nobody, or few, if any, would have the capability to do it on their own. I think we'll have to find our own unique, strong core competencies to fit into different aspects of processes, of geographies, of businesses, and align it with potential competitors, potential collaborators, and our customers. So energy transition does not mean subtraction. It means addition. We will have to collaborate across all value streams. We'll have to create interconnections between different value streams, between different customers, and create an ecosystem integrated with the supply chains globally in order to make this happen and find the places where we can all play. But believe me, there are so many places that we can play that the only thing that you need today is ideas. Ideas of the future, ideas of what we are doing today and how we can make them better. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude my presentation and hand it back to the organizers.
Thank you, Mr. Neeraj, for that interesting talk, and thanks for finishing on time.